During the pandemic, as a year ago, things began to slow down. The calendar was freed up by now. We weren't going to grocery stores, and if we were wiping down bags. Some of us were taking off our clothes and taking the shower every time we came back in the house. Um, Watching the news ferociously, anxiety levels high, watching people lose their life, watching people talk about how it's not real at all, racial unrest, um, political divide with an upcoming election. Churches closed on Sunday, buildings are closed, but churches open, videoing, filming sermons in the kitchen, trying to get the angle right, and the lighting is off. And as a leader, I did what many of you did. I just hit the ground running. And I said, here's an opportunity, and let them lean in. So good news today. Church on Sundays, producing content, just working it out. Not sure financially how we would be, not sure physically, health wise, how we would be. All the dynamics stacking, stacking, stacking. And I just remember there was something built in inside of me that I didn't even realize was there, but there was something that had an aversion to me expressing the anxiety and the burden that I was carrying, until one day it got overwhelming. And I even talked about it on Good News Today a while back. And when my wife and I, when we would check on each other, I always felt the need to put a positive, optimistic, hopeful spin, because that's kind of my role. It's kind of what I do. I bring hope. I'm a hope dealer. I encourage people. But I'll never forget, I just turned a corner. Saturdays would be so long and depressing, and Sundays were just weird, because for 20 something years now, I had a rhythm of developing a message and preaching it on Sunday in this dynamic, and my rhythm was off. And I just never forget, I started using two words that I don't use very often at all. It was kind of like my own version of surrender. My wife would say, babe, how you doing? And I looked at her and I said, I'm tired. I'm tired. And those two words would just give me exhale. I don't know why. I don't know why it was so hard for me to say them, because I had been tired before, but me saying it was like my own version of admitting I'm not Superman. I don't have it figured out. And although I know in Jesus' name everything's going to be okay, but it doesn't feel like it today. And it was my way of giving myself permission to be honest about where I was and not feel the pressure to be okay, but to accept the reality that it's okay not to be okay. It's okay not to have it all together. It's okay not to have it all figured out. And most of the times we don't have it all together, and most of the times we don't have it all figured out. But what I was realizing is it's okay to tell somebody. It's okay to say it out loud. It's okay to tell the truth about where you really are. We're talking about picking things up, things that we know that are good for us, things that we know that we need, but we tend to throw down. Yesterday, we talked about this idea of picking up the cross. denying ourselves and picking up the cross. And the reality is, in order to pick up that cross, well, you've got to bring something to the table. You've also got to pick something up. You got to pick something else up. And that's the power of confession, telling the truth about where you are. Because if you're not telling the truth about where you are, the cross ain't going to do you no good, because it's not going to land on something that's authentic and ready to be transformed. You got to tell the truth about where you are. In order to receive the truth of what the cross does, you got to tell the truth about where you are. You got to confess and be honest. Some of you are tired. Some of you are overwhelmed. Some of you are cynical. Some of you are angry. Some of you doubt God. You talking about picking up the cross. You don't even believe in it. You're struggling with it. You're wrestling with the power of it. You're depressed, or some of you're engaged in sin actively, and you're enjoying it, and you ain't trying to pick up the cross. You ain't trying to sacrifice. You're trying to indulge in your own sin. You just got to tell the truth. Ain't no point in you trying to act like you're spiritual. You got to be spiritual. And a part of spirituality is worshiping God in spirit and in truth. So yes, you want to pick up intimacy. Yes, you want to pick up the cross. But in order to pick up those well and to hold them well, you got to pick up the truth. You got to pick up the power of confession. You got to tell the truth about where you are. You got to be honest with God. If you ain't telling the truth to nobody else, you got to tell the truth to God. And then show up authentically in God's community. Tell the truth about where you are. Some of you are believing less in God than you were before. Tell the truth about it. Some of you got more questions and more doubts, and you're allowing that to eat away at your faith, and it's really evidence that you have faith. Tell the truth about it. Some of you are in a marriage and you're falling out of love with your spouse, and you don't know what to do. Tell the truth about it. Some of you are engaged in relationships that are inappropriate, and you know it. Tell the truth about it. Some of you are broken and you don't have it together, and you got people that love you, and they consistently ask you how you're doing, and you consistently lie and mislead the people that you love by telling them you're all good when you're all not. Tell the truth about it. God is big enough. He's good enough. He can handle your truth. The reality is you can't. You don't want to pick it up. And you know it's good for you. You know it's good to be honest about where you are. You know it's good because once you tell the truth, then you're going to be able to get the help that you actually need. So you know that it always works for your good. It's always powerful. There's always resurrection, but you just don't want to deal with the cross of telling the truth. Because you've found comfort in sitting in deception, in dishonesty, and inauthenticity. And I'm just here to tell you today, time's up. Time's up. Come on. Let's get free, and let's get free together. Come on. Let's get free, and let's get free together. You don't even have to change today, but just tell the truth today. Because the change starts in the truth telling. Some of you are so overwhelmed and panicked about what the change is going to look like. Don't even worry about that. Don't worry about God's going to give you the grace for tomorrow. But the grace for today is just to tell the truth about it. The grace for tomorrow will take care of what your need and what your next step will be then. Some of you thinking 10 days down the road, 5 days, 5 years. How's it going to be? How is it going to impact this? God's got a grace for the future. But don't try to borrow from the grace from the future to get you through today. It ain't going to work. You can't apply next year's grace to today's choice. Woo! Becky White, one of our counselors, therapists at the church, thinking about an issue and worried about 20 years from now what it's going to look like. And she just said, you can't worry. You can't. There's going to be a grace for that day. You can't use that grace for today. Some of you trying to get a preview of the grace to come because you're scared to make a choice today. You can't borrow from the grace from tomorrow to get you through your choices today. I'll give that to you again. You can't borrow from the grace of tomorrow to get you through your choices today. Come on, tell the truth. Be honest about where you are, because your change, your sacrifice, your renewal, your transformation happens upon your confession. Your confession unleashes the glory and the purpose and the promises of God in your life. I'm looking for worshipers who will worship me in spirit and in truth. Come on, the change starts with the confession. The confession is the initiation for the transformation. Come on, let me say that again. The confession is the initiation for the transformation. So are y'all ready to pick it up? Are y'all ready to do work? Come on, don't come in here, Good News Today, and be hanging out with us if you ain't willing to put in the work. Come on, put in the work. You are here because God wants you to put in the work. Some of you ain't watching a long time, and here you are looking at my face today, and I'm talking about just what you needed to hear. It's time for you to tell the truth about where you are. Some of you are way more tired than you've ever confessed. You need to speak it so that you can unleash the love and the comfort and the compassion that is due you. You are withholding from yourself compassion, love, and grace when you don't tell the truth about where you are. Some of you are broken and you are weak and you are at the end of yourself and it feels like a failure, but you don't realize it's the future. It's the power of unleashing you into your next phase. You don't get to bounce up until you hit rock bottom. And some of you need to make today your rock bottom. You ain't got to wait to hit. You ain't got to hit rock bottom. You can just land at rock bottom. I'm going to say that again, then I'm going to get off of here. You ain't got to hit rock bottom. You can land at rock bottom. I believe it. I believe it. I don't believe you got to lose it all to gain it all. I think you can surrender it all, but it's a difference between surrendering it all and losing it all. Surrender can come before the loss, but some of you just going to wait till you lose it all. But no. God just says, I want it. I can get it one way or the other. You can lose it or you can surrender it, but I'm here for it. God says, I'm here for it all. You ain't got to hit rock bottom. You can land on rock bottom today. With your confession, you can say, Lord, this is my rock. This is it for me. It's the rock bottom for me. It's the rock bottom for me. I ain't gonna go another day in this foolishness. God, I need you now. And I'm picking up that confession so that it might be the initiation for my transformation. Pick it up. That's your good news for today. See y'all tomorrow.